Welcome on the Dharma Journey podcast, Gabriella and Kai.
Hi, Bryre.
Thank you
Hey,
so much
thanks.
for joining. I'm so honored to have you both. We actually are doing this again. We recorded a couple of weeks ago, and we all live in Bali, so Wi-Fi is not the best sometimes, but that's fine. I always think that it's meant to happen. So round two, here we go. Yeah, Gabrielle and Kai help couples and individuals create extraordinary relationships through their offering, their program, the Path of Devotional Love. So today we're going to actually dive deeper into those 9 pillars, and I've done a couple with Kai and Gabriella, and they're really powerful. I think I did communication and integrity, something that I definitely needed to check in with myself and my own relationship. And I know how powerful these practices are because you both have really gone through your own path of transformation. And I think Kai said it in our last interview, and it's something just shifted in me when you said that. And you said evolution is death; it's a death of an old form, and to transform, we have to change form. So I think a big part of like relationship work, and for the listeners that are listening and tuning in, even if you're not in a relationship, I think we all realize is that our relationships are such big mirrors to our subconscious patterns, our programming, our childhood wounds. And yeah, I would love to start the question and open it up to how you both kind of uncovered this as your path of Dharma, of love, and of really, collaborating as a union and helping others in their path of devotional love. So yeah, please share your story, and then we'll go into the juicy bits.
So yeah, thank you for asking, because of course our story is what brought us to be walking this path. So well, for me, I grew up in a very dysfunctional family where relationships were really challenging, divorces and battles and fights and lack of presence, lack of commitment, lack of integrity. And as a child, I suffered being in such a, let's say, difficult, challenging, unhealthy environment. And I've been observing. So I was an observer of these adults behaving in this way. And what I always felt was a possibility inside of my heart that something better was possible. Of course, something better than the one my parents had was not that difficult to create, but something that was going beyond the ordinary. So I felt really the possibility in my body, in my being, in my heart, that an extraordinary, as you said, extraordinary. So outside of the ordinary relationship was possible to be created. And so I always been looking for to find like beautiful, positive examples around me, and I always been observing them instead and trying to find what worked for them and what was the secret for them. And so I kind of built my own understanding about it. And then of course I went through myself through my relationships. And of course I learned a lot through mistakes, through ups and downs. But when I met Kai in Spain during a training, Tantra bodywork training, we were just already in resonance to create something different. And yeah, we met in a very special way, and that's where everything started. We started already in a way that we could create something different than we were used to live since then. And maybe I let you the space to describe a little bit more what, yeah, what was for us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So I'll share. I guess I'll share a little bit further back to my upbringing to give you the contrast, because we come from different backgrounds. I had a stable family. My parents are still together after 20 some years of marriage. They were always present. Had a wonderful dad. Had an amazing mother. They just really took care of us. So I came from a really stable family, and for me, having parents being present in my life was just a normal thing. I had two brothers, and as far as I can remember, I couldn't have had a better childhood. Now, relationship for me, for whatever reason, was difficult. I had a really tough breakup my first time around, and then I didn't really want to get into relationships. I kind of just hung out in that friends with benefit zone for a number of years until I fell in love again, and then eventually I got into a relationship where I got engaged and got married. And within a year and a half after that marriage commenced, which was a 7-year relationship, we filed for divorce. Now, that really completely broke everything that I thought my life was going to be. I had parents who grew up in a marriage which was long withstanding. At first, they had their stuff, but they didn't. My mom, as soon as my youngest brother was born, the third of us three, she started sleeping in the bedroom with him, and she never made her way back to sleeping in the bedroom with my father, right? So there was this kind of separation in their intimacy that it was present, and that seemed normal at some point, but I didn't understand how that affected me, how that even impacted me, until in my own relationship there was a distance in our intimacy. We had a really good connection. We were good mates. We were good in the sense of good companions, but there was this intimacy that was missing on a physical level, and that ended up being the kind of the basis, the blind spot in my life that ended up ending that marriage. And so after that happened, I just woke up. Like, I realized, man, I got some blind spots here. I thought I got my stuff figured out. I had been on a spiritual journey for 5 years, and had built my 6-figure healing business, and I was doing good in my life and had a community of amazing people, and that really shook the ground out from underneath me. And it was that event that made me really look. Okay, there's got to be something deeper to relationships. Like, there's something beyond what I've grown up with. There's something beyond what I experienced. I have to figure out what was going on that led to that. I have to uncover what's going on in relationships. I have to get better at relationships. I don't want to end up there again.
Yeah.
And it was through that journey that I really went very intense and sought out some very experienced teachers in the field of sexuality and relating, and did the work. Did the men's work myself. And it was after probably I would say 6 to 8 months of really intense work on myself in that regard, I was in a really good place. And that's when our story converged. That's where Gabrielle and I met at this retreat, at this 3-week-long retreat in Spain, where we could just let go of the world and just be participants in this exploration of love and intimacy. So we met, and maybe in what might be I would say a paradise of a setting. You would hope. Every person would hope to have met in like a place that we met. It was incredible.
It was called Hidden Paradise, literally.
Yeah, the retreat.
What was the training about? Was it like tantra training, like breathing, sensuality? Like, what kind of training was it?
So it was a orgasmic body work. So body work, using the orgasmic energy to heal. A woman who does this kind of body work, Sasha Cobra. It wasn't her at the time, but she does this kind of body work, and it was her mentor who actually ran this retreat at that time. So we learned from I guess from personal exploration what this intimacy and sacred sexuality is in the field of someone who had been teaching this he was 70 years at the time, so he's been really engulfed in this understanding and in this work. And we got to explore, having met each other completely fresh with baby eyes, with brand new perspectives on life and on each other, what I guess a heightened orgasmic connection or a heightened intimacy could be like when there's no history. That's when we got 3 weeks to explore that, which means in most cases you don't have kind of a bubble where you get to explore something like that with such depth. You meet at a bar, or you meet in an airport, or you meet here, and then you kind of build your relationship out. We were engulfed in this incredible energy, and it wasn't just that energy that was our relationship. There was something about the moment that we met. I was walking up a hill, and I was coming around the corner, and I started like, now I look back, I didn't notice it then, but now I look back, there was this almost like a opening in my awareness.
Yeah.
And I turn around the corner and I see a shape, a shadow, a woman and a man. The woman happened to be Gabriella.
Same from my perspective. I was up and I was going down and I was feeling something coming, and I was in a ecstatic moment myself, because I was just enjoying life, enjoying being there, enjoying being myself, enjoying being in my body. And I felt something, an energy. Same. I wanted to just,
Beautiful. Let's weave it together. Both
weave it together.
perspectives. And so I'm coming up the hill and I see a man and a woman. And I don't know the scenario or the context. I don't know if they're together, if they're friends, if they just met and known each other for a long time. But I just noticed, I'm just completely drawn to this woman. She's wearing like a white outfit, and she was glowing. She was just glowing. And I came up. I wasn't
We're ovulating.
and she just really captured my attention. We were speaking, and I remember thinking, I don't know who this person is, but he doesn't exist in this moment. This fellow who they're standing there,
I just met him.
Exist.
It was just a colleague of the course. So
yeah,
I didn't know
that. But basically, I was just sitting there, and we ended up shaking hands first. And the minute that our hands touched, there was this electric energy in my body, and my heart started going dun, 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 dun. and then we hugged, and it was just this like familiar
home. You guys are gonna get it on later. I love when you hear stories like this and it brings that emotion. It's so beautiful.
It's super cheesy.
I definitely didn't plan to do this, but it was failure longing that there was a part of me that didn't even know it was seeking that.
Yeah.
It was just a memory of finding something you didn't even know you're looking for.
Yeah, I think what's relevant to say also is that I personally didn't look at him on a physical level or anything like that. I didn't notice his colors, his shape, or anything. Just the quality of the energy. I was noticing. I was just focused within my heart on that, because I was completely captured by this. But there was no observation from judgment or anything like that from my part about who he was and how he was, because what I was feeling was enough. It was fulfilling 100% already. So it could have been, I always say, it could have been blue, yellow, black, white, I don't know, young, old, ugly, beautiful. It wouldn't have mattered at all. And we have many many differences. We come from two completely different parts of the world. I'm Italian, he's Canadian. We met in Spain. So I was coming from Bali, he was coming from Canada. We have 10 years apart. I have two kids already. He hasn't. He hadn't at the time. Now we have a child together, but that's another story. So all the program, the convention, and that we normally focus on to choose a partner. So is he or is she as a beautiful or attractive to me, or is he interesting? His job is interesting. Her job is interesting, or her way of moving or acting is, do I like it or not? There was nothing about that, absolutely nothing. So we went immediately beyond all that. I think we've been blessed also with the opportunity to experience that at least once, and we could choose, if go for it or not. And we just let go of everything we knew in that moment. That's why it was talking about baby eyes, because we really let go of everything we knew since then, and we follow something that was beyond.
And we met beyond the conditioning. This is an interesting thing, is that you spoke about how we all bring our conditioning to the relationship. Somehow in that moment we met beyond the conditioning. We experienced something beyond the conditioning. Like, we know that that space exists. It's not something that takes time to work at. It's something that is a possibility inside of every human being waiting to be realized. It's innate. This space inside of a human being beyond their conditioning exists. And if you can meet your partner there, there's a quote from Rumi. It says, there's a field beyond right and wrong. I'll meet you there.
So that's self-actualization in
yeah.
partnership. Yeah.
Something profound, that possibility that I always felt when I was a child, of which I was talking about before, that possibility was manifesting in that moment for me. And a part of me already knew. All the rest was about to surrender to that truth. And so we work with couples and individuals, also letting them understand that there is a possibility beyond what we know and what we are used to see in others. If we just let go of expectations, and that's a very important point of our work. Yeah. So not just to meet someone, but when you meet someone, we project so many expectations onto the other person about how they have to be as a partner, how they have to behave in the day-to-day life, how they have to meet our sexual needs in a certain way, or things like that. Yeah. And we work a lot on instead coming back to not knowing and meeting the other person with open heart as a child, as a baby, so you can really enjoy the uniqueness of the other person, without really looking for flaws or qualities, but just absorbing who the other person is in hers or his totality.
Maybe you can share a little bit about, I know the listeners that are listening, some of them may be in a relationship, some of them may not be, and I think that's why I love the work that you do, is because you really help people that are already in a relationship that want to strengthen, their relationship, but also individuals, like you said yourself, you could meet beyond that conditioning because you had done the work prior. So you kind of met yourself, already whole and complete, instead of like searching for somebody or something outside of you that a lot of us do to try and fill that, that gap. So yeah, I would love to, hear a little bit about your, I think it was 6, but now it's 9 pillars and what they mean, and really to dive deeper into those.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the pillars themselves are discoveries that we've made being fundamental aspects of what comprise a stable relationship. Like when we're in a healthy place, these pillars are already working. So it's not that these are things that are missing from someone's life that they need to add in. It's like these are actually, when things are working, we've distinguished what is going on. And so these are things that if you've lost your way, if you've lost your ground, if you've lost your bearings in your relationship, these pull you back to that place that I said that we met, which is beyond the conditioning. That's so important to know that this work is a homecoming. It's not a fixing. Yeah. All good. Yeah, I was just saying that this work is a homecoming to your true self beyond the conditioning. It's not a process of um, I guess, adding something that you're missing, right? Because that's one layer, that's one level that people meet on, is they meet from a place of feeling incomplete, and they meet that incomplete person that completes them, and then now they have this codependent relationship.
Trauma bond.
And then trauma bond. And then one of them could have done the work, and the other hasn't done the work, and now you have the savior and the whatever the opposite of that is.
Distress.
Damsel in distress, or the wounded boy and the mother. You have all these dynamics that come from not having touched that place of wholeness in yourself. Now, what we're talking about is that place exists in every human being, and if you would undergo a process where you came home to that place in the relationship, that's where evolution would occur, and that's where evolution is death. It would have to require death. And this happens many times, and it's happened many times in our relationship, that we have outgrown the self that we've been interacting with. So we've outgrown the confinements of the way that we saw life. We've outgrown the confinements of the identities in which we were interacting with each other. And literally, we had to destroy those identities to create a space for us to interact in this new way. And so we've continually found deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper dimensions of love. And it feels like it's new all the time. It feels like we're meeting for the first time repeatedly and finding new levels of intimacy and connection. And that was something that I wanted to really figure out in a relationship, is how do you keep things fresh? How can you feel like you've met for the first time after 5, 10, 15, 25, 30 years, that each day is exciting and an exploration? And I really, we're lucky to have discovered that.
Yeah, about the chapters, is like a flower, is like a mandala, and at the center there is devotion. That's why devotional love. Devotional love was a download I had under the shower years ago. I knew this was like a portal. Devotion was the portal through all the other values, through all the others universes that this kind of work has opened for us. So devotion is the place where which you start, and the place from to which you arrive through what we call the chapters, which are dimensions. So it's the center of the mandala. And devotion is literally the portal of unconditional love. Is a state where you vibrate at your higher potential of qualities, of positive qualities, and you bring these qualities wherever you go, in wherever you do. So devotion become a sacred spiritual path. So it's not just about a relationship with your partner, but it's about everything you do. And through devotion, you tap into many other qualities, and So there are all the petals that are around devotion, which are 8
So
actually,
yeah,
with devotional 9. So there is
so there's
communication.
communication, and we'll just do a little summary of each one.
Yeah.
And maybe if you want to dive deeper into a specific couple, that we can do that. But so communication is really on many levels. We're communicating. We're communicating on a mental level, on an emotional level, on a physical level. But what communication for us is when the thing that I want to express here finds its way there. Communication is occurred. And so we have a system which allows people to make that phenomenon occur. And that we found is a doorway to connection. We found that when you really get someone, when you really feel understood, when you feel loved and when you feel seen and when you feel heard, it opens up this space inside of you where you're now in the same conversation. You're connected via communication. So the next chapter is connection. And connection is, we say it's always there, even when it doesn't look like it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the truth about who we are as at a deeper level is we're all the same being. We're all the same consciousness. And there's moments when we experience that deep connection. It could be even through communication, it could be through lovemaking, it could be through polarity. Different chapters, we experience that depth of connection and intimacy. But the fact is, that's always there. It's always there. And sometimes we think our way out of it. Sometimes we argue our way out of it. Sometimes we miscommunicate our way out of it. Sometimes we lose polarity and fall out of it. So that connection is, again, another one of the aspects of where we're coming from. And then
there is integrity. Integrity. Integrity for me is a very important one. So integrity is like a hat, and then underneath there is alignment. So integrity, there is an integrity of the body and there is an integrity of the word. So when you say something, you respect your word, you maintain your word, and that's very important. But this is just the concept at the base of the work that we do to resume. And also there is an integrity of the body, which is called we call memory of the body, Runana Bandha, which base our choice of a conscious monogamy, for example, which is very different from unconscious monogamy. So this is a very big chapter of exploration, but is choosing from knowing. This is the distinction from knowing and not from morality, from a moral judgment of what's right, what's wrong, what's bad, what's good. Nothing to do with that. So we know what Runana Bandha is, and we choose what we want to do of our life, of our intelligence, of our body, of our relationship. And there is alignment underneath integrity, which is aligning the intention, aligning the path. We're two, so we have two minds, two bodies, two way of seeing the world, seeing life, two ways of thinking. So we need constantly to realign each other in a way that there is a kind of integration of what the other person desire, wants to bring into the relationship, and vice versa, and find kind of agreement. So create from an integrity of the communication, which is also related to the chapter before. And that's to resume.
Now, one thing that's really important, I think, in the alignment section is alignment can happen even when you disagree on a topic, but there's something bigger than that. There's something that we really help people see as being, I'd say, one of the most powerful things that you could have in a relationship is goodwill.
Yeah.
Goodwill at the end of the day means we're on a team together, and no matter where we go, we're moving in the same direction. Now, when I'm coming from that position of we're on a team, doesn't matter if we argue, doesn't matter if we disagree, we're going to come together and align on finding whatever is the best outcome that we could come up with together. Whereas some couples are in a relationship that is adversarial, and so they are actually constantly fighting against themselves without realizing it. They're going, okay, well, you want to go here, well, I want to go there, well, how do I win this battle so that you come on, on what I want, and how do I'm the right one, you're the wrong one. And so this adversarial relationship is where most people find themselves in when they come to work with us, and they don't know how to get out of that. And so it's a power struggle. So goodwill has been like a magic potion that when people really understand at a deeper level what that is, alignment is a consequence, integrity is a consequence. These are things that start to emerge from that place of just being one. It's like goodwill is coming from the understanding that you are one.
Yeah, so it's an agreement on a deeper level. It's not necessarily an agreement on you have to think as I think, or you have to say what I say. It's on a much deeper level. And yeah, a trick is always thinking you are on the same team, of the same team. You are a team, you're cooperating together. And that's a little trick, but sometimes we forget about it, and it's incredible how easy it can be. But it always reminds me of that, and that's very uplifting, and that's very inspiring, when you feel things are not flowing exactly beautifully, it bring us back immediately to on track.
Shared vision.
Yeah, so that's one of the, that's an example of something that can happen that's magical, that you would think, oh, we would need to go to therapy and hash this one out, and kind of we'd have to find an agreement, and we'd have to come to an agreement and say, well, you're going to act like this and I'm going to act like this, and so we can get along. None of that's relevant when you get to the deeper concept of goodwill. So it's like that's really the basis in which you can build a relationship on. So these are all foundational pieces that, again, if you experience a moment beyond the conditioning, all of these are accessible. But all of them can pull you back to that place if you are not in that place beyond the conditioning. So polarity.
Polarity, is a universal law, the law of polarity, where two different poles, negative and positive, are magnetized together. So we base attraction on the polarity law, and without that, it's difficult to find a way to share intimacy if there is no attraction, if there is no polarity. And sometimes couples spend so much time together, being in one against each other sometimes, like we were saying, then they depolarize, meaning that they don't, their magnetism is not there anymore. And so also intimacy start to be less and less until there's no more eventually. And that's when couples break. And that's why there are a lot of divorces. And one of the reasons is that couples don't end up not having sex anymore, not having intimacy anymore, not having fulfilling lovemaking anymore. Maybe they have sex, but they don't make love anymore. They don't really connect at a deeper level, and that's what our hearts, especially women, crave for the most. Because staying physical, superficial, it's easy. You can do it even without being connected, but being connected really at a deeper level, you have to be naked, not just from your clothes, but you have to be naked in your heart. You have to open your heart and show your heart and show your pain, and that's when it's challenging. That's where true intimacy actually happens. And so we work on rebalancing the two poles, feminine and masculine, that are not gender related necessarily, but we talk about universal polarities, which are present in each one of us, men and women, independently of the sexual orientation we take. So it's nothing to do with that. It can be even from two women and two men. It's the same. We always need polarity when we are with someone. So yeah, we have exercises, we have practices to rebalance, recalibrate, and play with polarities. And that can be very fun also. We also send people on dates, and we create eventually, yeah, really enjoyable practices. And that's when a good sexuality, which is the next chapter, can happen. Can
Can I
actually.
can I ask you a question on this one, because it's something I struggle with in my own relationship. I think is when we are, do you feel like that some couples have just different sex drives? Because I definitely see that in my relationship. One of us has more of a sex drive, one of us has less sex drive. Would you say that that's just sometimes unfortunate, or can you create that, polarity in terms of um, meeting each other's needs in that sense?
So there is hormonal type of sex drive, which can be very different from, one to the other person. And it depends on the biology, the physical hormonal level. It depends on many factors. For example, one person does a lot of sports and dance and activity that raise their energy level, their what we call the chi, so the sexual energy. And so his or her drive can be higher than the other person, for example, that doesn't move much. It's just an example of some environmental condition that can be in place and can influence that thing. But at a deeper level, there can be also some emotional blocks that can prevent a person to really express fully their sexual drive, what we call sexual drive. Sometimes is I'm shy, or I have a problem really expressing what I would like to express to my partner, expressing desire to my partner, because I have a judgment that I don't even see, that is hidden inside of me, about expressing myself that way, or it can be many things. So there are different layers, or it can be a block, an emotional block that is in between the couple. I have a resentment towards you, and so I hold back my sexual energy. Sometimes people do it for a kind of subtle, sneaky kind of revenge. So it's a passive aggressive type of revenge where I make you pay your thing like this. So I hold back, and it can be conscious, it can be also unconscious, can be very subtle, or you hurt me and I don't feel to open my heart anymore. I'm scared. So it's difficult for me to let go because you did something to me. Many couples have history of what they call, I don't call it like this, but what they call cheating and betrayals. So being with other people, bringing energy, external energy into the couple. So one of the person that receive that kind of thing, which they create maybe a victim identity around this, can feel very tight around opening up sexually again. That's totally understandable. But we work on all those aspects. So there are different kind of layers. And you can definitely create from scratch popularity, which is balance, more balance. I noticed that women really needs to feel desired. That's when they turn on. If a woman doesn't feel desired, and you can, yeah, you say yes because if a woman doesn't feel desired really desired by her man, her initiation process tends to kind of vanishes in the time because she's not like turned on by that, and that's very important. and for a man instead, a woman that is too tough or too inner masculine. It's also a turn of his drive. So it's very complex, and yeah, it's very
We
interesting.
need another couple of podcasts.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and it's just so fitting how the polarity is the basis of the sexuality. In other words, sexuality without polarity, um, it really loses that capacity um, to take people deep. That polarity is like a vortex that pulls you deeper and deeper into sexuality and that intimacy.
Yeah.
So when people have a problem around sexuality, we look at sexual blocks or the emotional blocks that we talked about. We call them intimacy blocks, blocks that prevent people from opening their hearts to further intimacy or deeper intimacy. And we either approach it from polarity, so we give them exercises polarity. We've had people who have just done a polarity exercise and within an hour have the most sex they could imagine, you know? So because the polarity that was there was guiding the process. The energy guides the process. It's not that you need to do some technique or something like that. When the energy is there, it's just, it takes you. It takes you in a deeper place within yourself. You know exactly what to do with your partner. You're connected. And so that, again, it's a space that it's a place that's within us that we discover. It's not some technique you need to get to. It's here. We have to tap in. So that's one way. But if that doesn't work, then for sure we could probably rule in that there's probably some withholding. So when she's talking about intimacy blocks, what happens is in the couple, uh, one or both partners start withholding. So if there's a wound, what you tend to do is start pulling back away from the other person. So you'll end up having a withholding of energy, even though you want to be intimate, even though you want to connect sexually, even though you want to have hot sex, whatever you want to, whatever you want to call it. You want to get better in the bed. There's this withholding. So you show up and you're apprehensive, or you show up and you're giving it all mentally, but in your body you're like keeping something for yourself. That lack of full giving in lovemaking, it prevents kind of an amplification of energy. So it never really reaches the point, the melting point, if you will. It doesn't get, the energy doesn't get to a critical point where it starts to take over for you. So that's one thing that if a couple, one or both has a intimacy block, could be emotional, could be physical, sexual trauma from the past, whatever it is, then there are other things in another chapter that we do, which is healing, that uses sexuality as a healing tool. So sex as a healing process, but also there are other things that we help people with on a mental, emotional, and physical level to just heal those aspects, because that can be what's getting in the way of them wanting to experience intimacy, wanting to open up as they have armoring emotionally, mentally, or physically. So that's another chapter, which is, I would say, it's kind of next, because once you start getting into sacred sexuality, all your wounds start coming up and you really start to experience what you have to work on. So then the next thing that we see people coming up against after the sexuality chapter, after polarity, is, okay, now why am I crying so deeply? Why do I have that ugly cry sex, I want hot sex. Why is this ugly cry sex? Well, there's a deeper part of your heart that is being revealed to the person that you feel safe and comfortable with exposing it to. But there's a way to process that where it's not a continued loop of trauma. That's kind of a dynamic that you create between you and your partner, right? The savior and the wounded kind of dynamic, where there's one person who's relying on the other person to heal them and blah, blah, blah. It breaks that loop and really moves person to completion in their healing process. So there are specific things that we do with people in that regard that help them get past those loops that they have individually. And then I guess we could move on to
playfulness.
Playful, or even evolution. Playfulness or evolution.
Playfulness was coming before. I think is well, about sexuality, I wanted to say that is also a big chapter, and we work on, and there's a lot in there. But to resume, it's all about energy lovemaking. So yes, of course, we have tools, practical tools, but we work more on more subtle and deeper levels, so that incredible objects will be just a consequence of the work that we do on a deeper level. So we don't work on, okay, my heart is closed, your heart is closed, but if you stroke well, and if you do this and that, the sex is going to be amazing.
Do you feel sorry, do you feel like, because my love language is one of them is physical touch, but my partner's isn't. So I receive love through physical touch, but when he's pissed at me, that's the last thing he wants to do. He's like, stay away, kind of thing. My heart's like closed. So in terms of that, like, does that just work with having to respect each other's different needs, or can you come into that union of like, okay, I'm gonna have a little bit of give and take here, knowing that you receive love through physical touch, and knowing that you don't receive love through physical touch. So it feels almost like me when I'm not receiving it through physical touch, I'm literally, it's like I'm not wanted or not loved. That's like that inner child comes in, like, they don't love me, kind of thing. Can you explain a bit about that, maybe?
There's,
That's the healing.
there's like 4 angles I could come at this from
Yes.
different chapters,
Yes.
because
Okay.
It's you start to see, I mean, how do we get Bryre back to devotion? Basically, that's it. How do we get her out of her wound, which is old conditioning, and how do we get her partner out of his wound and his conditioning? But there's so many angles we could come at.
If I just can say one thing
Yeah,
before you start, is that his way of acting doesn't necessarily determine what he feels for you, and doesn't necessarily doesn't determine who you are as a person or as a partner who he is. So that's for sure. So it's just, and then
Yeah, I mean,
that was just the first thing.
So again, there's aspect of healing, which really means seeing beyond that identity that you've developed, the identity of the wounded, possibly abandoned child that didn't receive that from their parent or whatever it is. But there's a way to get beyond that, back to who you really are. There's a way to get beyond that identity, that sometimes you pop into the identity. Like, the reality is, if you weren't getting that in your childhood, that event that caused that shutdown mechanism, it's not happening now. It's not an event that's occurring. It's a completely different event that you and your partner are in. It's something that's happening now. It's unique. It's the first time it's ever happened. But when you go into those old memories, you trigger all this reaction patterns and protection patterns, and you don't even know that you're in your memory. You can't see that you're in a memory, and you're not in reality. And so then all of these coping patterns happen when we fall out of reality. And when we fall into an illusion where it's like, oh, my partner is the cause for me to feel this way, not the memory that got triggered is the cause that is making me feel the feeling. It's coming from within. If we can't see that, then it's like, okay, well, what do I have to do? How do I get back this love that was taken away from me? When really it was just constricted inside of you because of the memory. So we would have to go through kind of a process of helping people to insightfully see that for themselves, to be able to see that where that experience comes from. But then there's healing processes that they can do from that personal responsibility, not from the wounded victim, because a lot of people are doing healing processes from a wounded victim, and all that does, I was in that position trying to heal from a victim mentality, and all it does is it's a never-ending path of more and more and more and more healing, because when you're looking from the victim, you're looking for what's broken.
Yeah, not whole.
So you'll always find more that's broken, and you'll always try and fix it, instead of realizing who you are is beyond the wound and seeing the wholeness of who you are. That's what ends the healing journey, to lead a person to be whole, right?
Also, I would like to say that many couples expect, are you going to do something to change my partner so I'm going to feel better? But we can't work on the other one. We can always work and just work on ourselves. So if we will have to work with both of you, we will work with you on that, and with him on something else that is behind what how he's acting, or whatever comes up for him. But of course, we can't do the you know the cross work. It's never, it's like, yeah, it's always an inner journey to a resolution.
I mean,
More than
it basically, that situation could be handled in any one of the chapters. We could get there through goodwill, could get there through sexuality, polarity, could get there through communication, could get there through connect. Like, it could be handled in any one of the chapters. That's what's so powerful
Yeah.
about this discovery, is any one of these can lead you back to devotion. Back, any one of the petals can get you back to where you are already whole and you're experiencing the relationship beyond conditioning. Let's chat playfulness. Playfulness is a really good one, because it's not like an exploration like communication, where you kind of have almost like a process that you do. It's a way of being, and it's an approach to life.
Yeah.
And the approach of playfulness, it really just see, what happens is, in a relationship, we end up taking ourselves way too serious. So the ego likes to be very protected, and it takes itself way too serious. So it's like a solvent to glue. Like, if you have, like, the glue is like keeping you stuck in a relationship, and egos keep you stuck in a relationship. Playfulness, if you can find the sense of playfulness and laugh at yourself, get over yourself, this automatically is like a solvent that just washes away the thing that you think you're stuck in. Now, if you don't get over yourself, you can take that thing that you're stuck with and go to therapy with it and talk about it for 6 months and work on it and really hash it out and become experts on the stuff that gets you stuck. But if you really want to get past it, you have to change your way of being. You have to change the way you approach your ego. Playfulness is a way that you can just laugh your way out of a lot of the nonsense that you find yourself in, that you find yourself holding your partner responsible for.
But it's also a dimension you want to tap in for the relationship. How can we experience some playfulness together? Like really playing together, really go and find something playful to do together. It's a way to spend couple time, good quality time together. So dates that actually can help us bring out this dimension in our day-to-day life, in the relationships with the family members. So when there is laugh, when there is playfulness, we let go of a lot of, for example, resentment, or a lot of grudges that we can hold for little things. And then also other things like coming back, like sexuality and polarity can be reestablished even from that perspective. So playfulness is a very profound dimension of being and of relating. So it's fundamental. We couldn't transmit devotional love without this pillar, because it's absolutely important. It's a structural part of this path, this work of love, of joy, and And then there is evolution, which
as we mentioned last time, in some way, evolution is death. It's the catalyst. Death is the catalyst. When you allow parts of yourself to die, it becomes the catalyst of the growth in the relationship. I just wanted to say that, because that was really when I saw that for myself, and I was holding on to myself. I was really clinging on to the things that I thought I needed to cling on to. That was, I basically, the relationship couldn't evolve when I was holding on to things that I wanted to have happen. And when I realized that evolution is death, it means for this relationship to evolve, part of me is gonna have to go bye-bye.
And
And so
yours.
yeah.
Yeah, without growth, without change, there's no relationship. In the sense that we always we're always aiming for an evolution in the relationship, inside and outside. So if we sometimes couples end because they get stuck in a phase of their life, I either inside of them or in the relationship itself. Let's say we start being boyfriend and girlfriend. We're young and we go to cinema together. This phase has to evolve at a certain point. We can't be always, in this kind of boyfriend girlfriend zone, and we have to evolve. But that's very simple example. But there are many layers and many stages of evolution to arrive to the deepest level of evolution that a couple can go through. And devotion love is an evolution path. And being on a state of devotion is definitely one of the visions and one of the dimensions that this path can bring you to. And that's why is not just a couple work, but it is a spiritual path itself. So is a possibility of growing, evolving, transform spiritually through a relationship.
Yeah.
And that was one thing that when before we met, I was after the marriage ended, I had been doing such intense yoga, and I was really committed to my spiritual path that I thought at one point maybe I'll go and live in an ashram and I won't enter into a relationship. And so it's super important for me to be able to rectify that part within myself that believed that they couldn't coincide, like that there was some conflict in some sort between living material life and being spiritually oriented. And so finding this in a relationship has just been really profound, and it's integrated my spiritual passion and purpose and pursuits into a day-to-day life. Instead of me just sitting in meditation and living in that very etheric spiritual realm, it's like a grounded spirituality that you get to live every day, and you get to evolve yourself in interaction, and a relationship catalyzes your spiritual growth because there's so much feedback that you just don't have when you're in meditation by yourself. So it really allows you to see yourself, to see the places you still need work.
Um, as we did like a distinction between unconscious and conscious monogamy, I will do also distinction between like conventional marriage, legal marriage, and a spiritual union, which is very different. And we chose conscious monogamy and spiritual union for us. We marry not legally in an ashram in India through a process that tied our nadis, our energetic nadis,
Yeah, they're like meridians
together. So it's like giving yourself to a spiritual path that is also made through a relationship as a vessel for growth. So it's a very distinct path than marry someone through a written contract. And of course, can be a religious kind of marriage, and there is also more. But we want to make this distinction because in society today, a lot of people marry through a written agreement, let's say, and
yeah, it's a legal contract. But when I went through my divorce, I really realized marriage has to mean something. Like when you get married, it doesn't mean anything. Your relationship is a process. I got married and I fell asleep
Yeah.
because I thought the marriage makes the relationship. No, not at all. It means nothing. You have a living process, a living spiritual process that you're always cultivating every day. That's a true marriage. And that's the evolution. That's the growth of two individuals to move closer and closer to becoming one. That's what people hope to achieve through marriage, but it's often just replaced with a concept. It's not really worked upon on a day-to-day basis or experienced on a day-to-day basis what marriage really is.
Let's say that ultimately devotional love open up us to an experience of life that is absolutely blissful, reverential, and experience that's sacred in our personal experience through pleasure and through a vision of life that is no longer um, an ordinary vision of life, but that it's difficult to describe. If yeah, with devotion is the only word that can describe it probably. That reverence.
Yeah. Reverence.
Yeah.
So that's it for the chapters. I mean, we actually creation is a chapter with devotion being at the core, and then there's 9 petals. Creation is also a chapter that we would include because conscious creation, because essentially, again, we're trying to escape the ordinary. Ordinary means status quo, means patterns, means conditioning. If you really fall victim to your own conditioning, you're headed where your parents are headed. You're headed automatically. You're headed automatically in a place that kind of you picked up in your environment the paradigm of relationship. So unless you consciously create, unless you make it a conscious creation that you're going to create something, you're going to create what relationship is for you in this life, not you're going to replicate what relationship was in your environment. It takes a certain level of consciousness to do that, to overcome your conditioning.
Creativity. And if for who's interested in conscious creation, we also talk about conscious conception, which is very interesting, and we've been through that personally, and we have a lot to share with people who wants to go through that path in a different way,
Even I mean, there's aspects to it too. There's conscious birthing, there's conscious pregnancy, and there's even conscious uncoupling.
Yes.
I mean, going through the uncoupling process
through that.
In a way that it's evolutionary for you. Yeah. It's not this wound, but it becomes kind of like for me, going through my divorce in a certain way, actually, I realized if I leave this behind, something better is coming. Like I realized for me that if I can open to this experience and I can encompass it and take it in fully, then I will have grown through that process and I will not attract the same thing again. I will attract something much better. And so conscious uncoupling can actually be the jump board to finding a relationship with devotion. But that's just an example. There are many different things that come up in relationships that people need support with. But those are just some examples of other things. So I think that's pretty much it. That covers all the chapters and our journey and
some tears, some laughter. I love it. And now you're gonna go make baby number 2, baby.
For me, will be number 4, though.
Yeah, you're number 4. That I always, because my partner wants 2 kids and I want 3, so that's definitely going to be having some conscious conception talks over there. So we'll definitely, I definitely feel that we're going to be joining you on the devotional path at some point in the future, if not next year.
Wow.
But maybe we can.
Yeah. We're launching our group Devotional Love program, the Path of Devotional Love, in February 2021. So this is a way that people can access it one-to-one we have very limited time slots to work with people. If one-to-one is something that people are looking for, we interview them to see if they're a good fit. But right now we have opened up this possibility to take people through the Path of Devotional Love, a 12-week process in a group, which creates many, many cool possibilities. Doing it in a group is just wonderful. You get to interact with other people, and you get to be inspired by people, and you get to also look at people and realize, I think we're better off than we think. And there's all this sort of group dynamic value to it. So we've created it as a group program, and that'll be happening in February. So for people who are interested in knowing more about our work, devotionallove.org. We have just a temporary site until we get the
3 kids, right?
Three kids.
devotional environment is going to open up to the possibility, at least.
Well, yeah, I think this path that we're on, and it's funny because I never really, same with you, I was never modeled that, kind of devotional partnership growing up. And I think similar as you, Gabrielle, I've always been on this like seeking journey. And I feel like, everything I always thought that I wanted, I'm now questioning. And I wanted always success, and I didn't want to have kids, and I wanted to be independent, and kind of, didn't want that family life. And now coming into this partnership where I feel safe and feel seen and heard, and I'm growing in so many different ways, I'm like, the one thing I want is just a family. Like, I love all of the, the fame, the success, and the business growth, but I think deep down, like, all I ever want is just like that safety of a family, and yeah, and just like that beautiful creation of a love bubble that I didn't really have as a child. And I think that that's my mission, is just to have a new paradigm, and like we said, move beyond experiencing love beyond the conditioning. So that's where it's at. That's the movement. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And I know that
sorry.
Yeah, no, I was
just
saying
say that we really believe that through this paradigm that you just said, through devotional love, we can heal the world, not just our couple, but it is gonna have a ripple effect into the world.
Yeah,
the world needs more healthy love.
Yeah,
it really allows you to rewrite all the generations that came before you. You get to rewrite the path for your children and for their children. And so it's really a powerful process to explore within your own relationship. But thank you so much for having us again. It's really wonderful being back, and yeah, thanks for having us.
My pleasure. And for you guys that are listening, and you resonate with Gabrielle and Kai, then you can actually go on the link in the show notes and actually see which path of out of those 9 pillars, which path you may want to explore. And I think you're giving a free audio file for the one of the different pillars they may want to dive deeper into. And I know I dived into communication and integrity, which I'm probably going to listen to again many times, because you grow and you learn more things at the level that you're at. So yeah, I really recommend jumping on and checking out their offerings, and just seeing this embodiment, and the family dynamic. It's beautiful. And yeah, thank you for leading the way, leading the example for our future generations, I hope. All right, bye guys, thank you for listening. Lots of love. See you guys next week. Bye.